Now I'm streaming on YouTube.
It's working.
Is it working in the same one, or are we on a different one?
No, the same one.
Oh yeah, it's working.
It's working. Oh my God.
Is it working in the same one, or are we on a different one? Oh, I can hear myself.
No, the same one. Okay, hold on.
Oh yeah, it's working.
Okay, we're live, right? Are we live?
I think so.
Can you guys hear me? Do we need to contact NASA?
You know, and I think I paid about.
Can they?
I can. It's not coming up on the same video, but I can hear that it's live somewhere because. Hang on.
Can they?
Right. So we're live in a different video. I've got like umpteen YouTube windows open here, and they're just all going to go sound all at once, I bet you, and I'm going to have to go through and mute. Oh, I can see myself.
Can hear and see you both. It's a different video. Okay. Okay, so in that other video, just tell them we had some technical problems. I apologize. I tried to set it up like in a long form kind of custom way, and I followed the directions, but for some reason it wasn't working out. So I had to close that and start a new one. So I'm just going in the other, I apologize, guys.
Right, okay. So the way that this is set up, so when you're speaking, it only shows you on YouTube, and when I'm speaking, I think it only shows me, so it like kind of switches. So is there a way you can make it, does it change the viewing settings and make it?
I believe so. Let's see.
Gallery view. Right. So is there a way you can change it on YouTube?
I'm trying to. Hold on a second here. I don't think it's YouTube. I think it's Zoom. Isn't it? It's a Zoom setting.
Is it? What I'll do whilst you're doing that, I'll go through and I'll put a link to the new one in the previous chat.
One of these days, we're going to get to the court cards.
We'll have time for about one court card, guys.
Oh my gosh. The problem was setting it up in advance. That was the issue, and I'm not very familiar with this. I thought I was. Oh, aha! All right, there we are. Can you see it? We're good.
We are. We're still in this funny view.
Okay, finally, I guess we can talk about court cards. Thank you for everybody for hanging in there. This is a learning process for me. My very first live, and I had a few issues, but Chris helped me, and you guys are very patient, and I appreciate it. So, how you doing today, Chris?
I'm great, thanks. How are you? Well, actually, do you know, I'm telling you lies. I'm actually loaded with the gold. Like, I've been shielding, well, I've not been shielding, but Sandy has. So I've been kind of keeping my distance from people like throughout the whole of lockdown and stuff. And then I go to this wedding, you know, the wedding I was at that week there, and there was like 120 people there, and I come home with a cold. So I mean, I shouldn't have expected anything different, but yeah, right. I've got the cold. So
you got the Rona.
No, I don't. Thankfully, I don't think it's corona. I think I'm okay in that respect, but just a bit of man flu. So, but I'm on the cold and flu, so should be fine. I should be able to hold myself together for the duration of this live. How are you?
I'm good. Just kind of having a crazy day today, running around, and you know, but I worked it out and we're good. So now I'm wonderful. I just was a little bit nervous because I was like, Jesus, this is my first live and like something's going wrong. And I'm, you know, but whatever it is, we're all friends here. It's not like, you know, a big deal really. So we're just kind of hanging out. I appreciate everybody being patient. So, well, we're going to be talking core cards today. We were talking earlier in the week, and I'm actually reading a book by Tom Little and Mary Greer on core cards, and it's really got me thinking a lot differently than core cards. You know, I feel like core cards are one of those things that are sometimes I feel personally like I neglect learning. I remember seeing someone, it was a few days ago, they said, you know, the core cards were the first cards that they decided to learn. And then everything else in the tarot, in the minor arcana, sort of worked around that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. You know, I forget where, I think it was on the Tarot de Marseille Facebook page or somewhere. But, you know, everybody approaches them differently. You know, like some people see them as people, some people see them as characteristics. You know, some people just, you know, read them like they're, you know, number 11, 12, 13, and 14, right? So I figured we could just talk about, you know, I guess we could start by showing, you know, because I know you want to show your favorite core card, so you can, I guess, start by showing your favorite, and then we can talk about, you know, the different, how we approach the core cards, maybe talk about significators, things like that. So what deck were you thinking for your favorite cards?
Well, I've actually, I think I might have misunderstood a wee bit, Justin, because I've basically went through pretty much most of my decks, and I've got all of my favourite, like, one
That's
for each
fine.
court. So I've got
Totally
16 cards in front of me from different decks.
Right.
You know, that way. So almost what I did for the majors favourites, but for the courts. So that's what I've got. I've got like one of every court card in front of me.
Cool.
No,
that's totally fine. I couldn't have personally done that, but you know, that's totally fine. I just couldn't do it. I would try, but the problem. Well, go ahead. I'll let you go ahead. Talk about your core cards.
No worries. Well, why don't? But right. Okay. Well, why? What one do we want to look at first?
Let's start with the pages, right? Start with the Page of Cups.
Okay. Page of Cups. I've got the Page of Cups here from the Lightseers Tarot.
Okay.
I really just like the imagery on this one. I like the fact that there's a pig flying. I like the fact that he's, you know, he's almost living on a donut. Do you know what I mean? Like his legs are go down here and then his feet are coming from above. Do you know what I mean? It's like
yes,
everything's kind of topsy turvy, and I really identify with the Page of Cups, and that I walk about with my head up my arse a lot of the time. I can be quite overly emotional sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I can take things quite personally, and for me that's the Page of Cups, and I think that's even down to just his wee hairdo. So you can see his hair's just kind of, he's got a wee quiff going on. And it's just kind of way up here. I just love everything about this card. So yeah, that's kind of what the Page of Cups means to me. Very sensitive individual. What about you?
Well, so I totally agree with that. And actually, I just bought that deck because of you. It was something that never really appealed to me, the Lightseers. But then, you know, you were calling it your soul deck the other day. And I was like, you know, Chris is really, you know, very into tarot. He's got a real passion for the cards. I said, you know, I should give this deck a second look because I remember passing on it a while ago. And I was just looking at the images. I was like, you know, I'm just going to order it. So I'm waiting for that to come. But for whatever reason, it just didn't click with me the first time. But I figured I you know, I have so many decks. I mean, one more is not going to hurt me. So, but I think for me, probably the Page of Cups. You know, most of my favorite core cards are actually Rider-Waite-Smith, but this is the Carol Hertzer Illuminated Tarot, and I really, really do like this. You know, so it's like it's still Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's recolored and it's sort of made its own. You know what I mean? I agree with you totally about personality. In fact, there's an exercise in the book that I'm reading with Mary Greer and Tom Little, where it says, you know, intuitively or instinctually choose your significator, or you know, the core card that you identify with, and that's what card I chose, was the Page of Cups. The reason I chose it is because it sort of reminds me of being a kid, sort of like being outside and you know, collecting like lightning bugs or fireflies in a jar, you know, or like going down and catching a fish and putting it in the cup. Like it sort of represents like the eternal, for me, the eternal child, like being a child forever. Not, and there's some positives to that, and there's some negatives. So the positives for me is like always having new interests and being into things, learning things like tarot and taking up learning guitar at age 38 or whatever, and just deciding to just go off. And it was like that childlike kind of playful love for learning things and just doing different things. And I have a lot of hobbies, and for me the Page of Cups is just totally me. But there's also a negative to the Page of Cups too, and it's like sort of like lack of focus, you know what I mean? Too much playfulness,
Can be
things
very
like
overly sensitive, I think.
very overly sensitive, of course, and definitely. So so for me, I think the Page of Cups is probably, from this one, I think is going to be one of my favorites. It's nearly impossible for me to pick like a favorite Page of Cups. I have multiple favorites, and I have different decks that I like to go to, but I think this was the one that I thought of for that one. So
Okay. So what about people in the chat? What do you guys all think? Has anyone got a particular Page of Cups that just jumps to them right away when they think Page of Cups? I'm interested to know. I'm just on a wee look down the comments here. So we think that we've managed to lose Simon. Poor Simon's fallen down a rabbit hole somewhere, and we've not quite managed to get him back yet. So we've got Hen in the chat. Hi Hen. Ben's here. Jesse went to Carol Hertzer's house this week, sorry. She gave me fresh blackberries, catnip, and
good.
mint from her garden. You're so jammy, Jesse. You know everyone. You know all the tarot celebrities. Let's see. Neem. Oh yeah, you're in. D's here. Hi D. Hi Divination.
See Ben.
We've got Sue. Hi Sue. And anyone else that I've not said hello to, hi. Yeah, so that's a Page of Cups. What?
I think another one I like too, another Page of Cups, is the New Choice Tarot de Marseille.
Right,
I just
okay.
love the art in this, and I seem to really like the traditional core cards a lot, whether it's RWS or Marseille. But this is like sort of a modern kind of twist on like the classic Page of Cups.
Yeah, definitely.
So how about the what are we going to do next, Chris? What page?
What about the Page of Swords? So again, and I swear not every card is from Lightseers in this, but I've again picked the Page of Swords from the Lightseers.
Well, good, because I don't feel so bad now.
I just love all the symbolism on it, and it's one of these cards that you don't look at it and think, oh, that's rich with symbolism, but then when you kind of beg your pardon. Bixby, she's a wee bitch, so she is. Right. Yeah, like, so she's the Page of Swords, she's holding all these light bulbs, and that obviously represents all the ideas that the Page of Swords has constantly got. She's using her sword to basically bridge the gap between the two pieces of land. So she's kind of walking across her sword. I don't know if you can see that there, but that really represents how the Page of Swords really thinks outside the box, and thinks about innovative solutions to problems. She's got a book in her hand. Obviously, Page of Swords is like wants to know everything. Really, kind of seeks out knowledge.
Sure.
And then there's a couple of wee birds as well. Messages. Do you know what I mean? Text messages, letters, all that kind of thing. All these kind of things that we would represent, what we would associate with the Page of Swords.
Definitely.
So yeah, no, I really, really kind of enjoy this Page of Swords. I think that it's perfect the way she's done it. It's just on point. And yeah,
Simon found us. I see now. He said, "Oh, you're here. Sorry, Simon. It was a mess, but we got it. We're good now."
Don't worry, Simon. We were just killing time until you got here.
Zoom is this very confusing. It's just like, I follow the directions and, I plugged everything in. I have a feeling that one of the keys just didn't match up. And rather than going through that and just figuring everything out, I just decided to just close it and start new. So it's my first live. Hopefully you guys, understand. I'm sure you do.
We'll let you off with this once, Justin. I'm
yeah,
sure.
hopefully. Do you think, Chris, there are any like negatives associated with the Page of Swords? Like when you think of the page, do you
Page
think
of Swords is a nosy wee fucker? There's a negative associated with the Page of Swords. They can be quite a wee mixer. Do you know what I mean? If they're in shadow, they can really kind of.
Yeah.
I need to watch what I'm saying. Actually, I don't want to use offensive terminology, but like they'll pass on messages, but they won't pass them on quite the same.
Sure.
And it's how they're really kind of how rumors start. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They love a good bit of gossip, which I suppose we've all got a wee bit of that in us. But the Page of Swords will actively seek it out, and will actively try and seek it out for the purpose of exactly.
Absolutely.
So I would say that's a definite negative with the Page of Swords. Can maybe be a wee bit know-allish. So they'll be the type of person who will they'll basically get one wee snippet of information, and then they'll try and act as if they know the entire book. Do you know what I mean? They'll read one line from it, and then they'll try and speak to you. They'll try and speak to you as though they can tell you about everything, when really, calm your jets, pal. You've only just established one small fact. You've still got a lot to learn, but sometimes the Page of Swords needs a wee bit of a reminder of that.
Do you often, because for me, I think of the court cards, one thing I found helpful recently is to think of them more as a family, as opposed to like royal ranks. So that's something I've been doing, and I find it much easier because you can think of the role of a mother and the role of a father, role of a son, and a role of a daughter, and I feel like that's sort of a nice balanced way to approach the court cards.
Definitely can be, yeah.
Yeah, and then you just have to sort of think of the suits and just sort of it almost is like what they call like mind mapping, where you don't even really have to memorize anything, you just sort of understand it.
Yeah, the associations and everything. Yeah, I definitely. That's definitely a good way to think about it. Another way I've found, because I did wee study sessions on the courts, and one of the good things that I've found is to think about how they interact with each other. So like we've just talked about the Page of Cups and the Page of Swords, right, which is fair enough, but then see if these two were to be kids together on the playground, or if they were to meet in a class or something like that, how would they interact? What would this one think of this one, and vice versa? Do you know what I mean? So that's quite often a good way to brainstorm and a good way to mind map and memorize like kind of the different, and delve into like the different aspects of their personalities, I've found.
Sure. So for my Page of Swords, hold on just one second. I have the Sword Maiden, if I can find her.
So quick hello to Jamie Kelly. Jamie's popped in. Hi, Jamie.
Oh, no, it's Stone Maiden.
We've got JR Pello as well.
Ah, here she is. So this is the Arthurian by Caitlin Matthews, and I like this for court cards in a lot of ways. It is so it's a classic deck. I really like the artwork in this, and I just like, for one, I feel like when I think of courts, I often think of like the Arthurian legend, because especially knights, and that's also the Knight of Cups is one of my favorites too in this. But it's like that Arthurian legend sort of just makes me think of the core cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I always like this one, and you know, and it's also Sword Maiden, so it's not the page, so it's sort of like, again, in that like sort of family kind of mode. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you know, it's more balanced in, you know, in terms of her being a she, and I don't know, I just like it. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely agree with. I'm sorry. I was just going to say I definitely agree with you in terms of what you said about you know, the page being, you know, like a shitster and being more. I think of it more as like, you know, immaturity as far as their verbal usage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. But
Definitely.
I agree
Ego.
with
The swords are quite often connected to the ego. So the page is obviously the least mastered, the least they got the least mastery of their ego of all the
Yes.
four courts. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, so that's the page of swords.
Yeah, I just really like the artwork. I tend to really like. I'm drawn to these like sort of styles. Like I really like Lisa Hunt. You know, I like these kind of decks for some reason. This type of art just resonates well with me. Not really sure why. Haven't really put much thought into it, but. So next we have what, the Sword Knight, right? Or I'm sorry.
The pages, so either page of pence or page of wands.
Right. All right. Well, you're up, Chris. Go ahead. Let's see your page of wands, or choose
Page of
whichever.
wands. So I've got the page of wands from the Everyday Enchantment. So I love this deck anyway, right? Because just the images in it are so kind of rich with, I don't even know if I want to say symbolism. It's more just rich with detail and really well drawn or painted, or however they're illustrated, really well illustrated. But I mean, he's off on an adventure, isn't he? He's got his torch and he's kind of jumping into a stream. He's not even looking where he's going, you know. To me, this really kind of embodies the page of wands, and the page of wands, I suppose it's not really so much demonstrated in this card, I don't think, but the page of wands for me is someone who's constantly got ideas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Constantly get new ideas popping into their head. It's that fire from the wands. It's that spark. You know, always get something new on the go. They really need a bit of guidance for them to actually see the project through and finish it,
Sure.
which is where the page of wands falls down sometimes, because you know, I think I said this in the last video that I did. Without that guidance, without that nurturing, you know, from the king and the queen and the action that the knight brings in, the page of wands can end up with just a big line of unfinished projects behind them that
Yes.
they've started, but they can't be arsed finishing. So for me, that's where the shadow aspect of the page of wands really comes in. But yeah, I just really love this card.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, for me, it's really hard for me to choose a favorite page of wands. Like, but I'll show you one of my favorites, which is the CBD page of wands, and it's very simple. You know, it's like a very sort of simple page, right? But you know, I just really like the core cards in the Tower of Marseille. You know, it's like when I think of core cards, that's what pops into my head. I think Rider-Waite-Smith and I think Tower of Marseille. And
Definitely. But I mean, you can find symbolism and everything. That's the thing. And see, if you look at that card, like he's got something in his hand that he's working on, but he's actually not concentrating on it. From what I can see, it looks as though he's looking off into the distance. So for me, I can pull from that. I can say, right, okay, well, you know, that's the kind of, you know, hundreds of ideas, loads of things going on in his head. He's not even concentrating on the thing that he's doing. His mind's already miles away. Do you know what I mean? 2 steps ahead.
Yeah, he's
so
like 3 steps ahead of himself. Exactly. And I also agree with what you said too about you know, being, you know, maybe associating it with like hyperactivity, attention deficit disorder in children, you know. So I probably have a bit of the page of wands in me, especially when I was a kid. But yeah, it's just like one of them, you know. But I tend to think, like you said, you know, more or less the immaturity of not being structured, just kind of freewheeling, doing whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
And so it's like running around, So
Definitely.
yeah, that's
Jesse got chased around by a giant hornet.
Jesse.
Yeah.
Watch out. I hope it wasn't a murder hornet.
Somebody else said something. Ben said that he likes the court cards and the sassy burrito. You are a wee sassy burrito, Ben.
I almost bought that deck like this week, and I was like, I have to slow down, but it's relatively like inexpensive for a really nice quality deck on Etsy. But that's a deck that's really been on my list for a long time, and I'm just sort of constantly moving it back, But I'm definitely going to have to get that eventually.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. It's one of those ones that I've had my eye on for a while, but I've not quite done it yet.
Yes.
So, what's next? Page of Pentacles?
Yes. You can do Pentacles or Cups, either one.
We've done Cups. Cups was the first one we done, so it's
Oh,
Page
I'm
of
sorry.
Pentacles.
Yes,
No, you're
go
okay.
ahead.
So I've picked the Page of Pentacles from the Marielle Tarot. So it's quite reflective, this one. So I'm trying to hold it up to the camera in such a way where you can see it.
I can see it.
So I just really love the image in this one. It's this cute wee baby. The Pentacles is very much the kind of physical suit. So if there was a page who was going to represent an actual baby, I suppose it would be the Pentacles suit. There's a lot of meaning, and so if I remember rightly, the guidebook talks about the baby's shoes. So I don't know if you can see properly, right? But the baby's shoes are they're white, blue, and red.
Yes.
And that represents, and guys in the chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but that represents air, fire, and water.
Yes.
Because Marie White in the Marielle, she's really trying to kind of melt. She basically, the pentacles for her are the discs. She calls it the discs for her is basically the combination. It's the combination of all the other elements. It's how all the elements combine together into the the physicality of everyday life.
Yes.
So that's the symbolism in those shoes. So you've got a really kind of cute wee card there, but you've also got a lovely wee bit of symbolism, which that works for me.
Yes, absolutely. I totally get it. Page of Pentacles, this is one and again, like it's impossible for me to, I think most of my favorite core cards are going to be with the Rider-Waite-Smith and the Marseille, and it's really hard for me to kind of choose. But I really enjoy the core cards in this deck. This is the Lily Black, which I just got. And yeah, it's just a really, really beautiful image. And at first I wasn't like really happy with this deck. I kind of was like, especially with the copyright and all on the front. And I just kind of glanced at it and I put it on the shelf and I was like, that's not what I really expected. But then I spent some time with it the other night and I did a walkthrough of it and I was really kind of looking at it with like fresh eyes and, just sort of like getting kind of into the images. And it really is a beautiful deck. I mean, it's really, really pretty.
Yeah.
So I do like this one. I mean, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but this is a really nice, just like a child, and you have some,
definitely.
it's just, that earthly kind of child,
Yeah, earthly. Page of Pentacles, I suppose, is, I always say he's the one who likes to kind of work out manual things. He's a learner and he wants to learn as much as he can, but it's more like kind of how to create things with his hands. It's how to do things manually.
Yes.
He's not so much concerned about how the physics and the science behind why things work and how they work.
Yes.
All he needs to know is that when he turns that switch, the light turns on. He doesn't care about the electrons in between.
Yes.
That's more the Page of Swords. So yeah, he loves to kind of work at that physical stuff, and there was another card that came close to being my Page of Pentacles, and it was from the Everyday Enchantment. And I think, if I remember rightly, I might be confusing it with the Knight, but it shows basically someone walking like loads of dogs at once. So
Yes.
the Page of Pentacles, he'll work hard, but there
Yes.
needs to be something in it for him. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yes.
he's very
Payoff.
kind of money conscious for his young age, or he or she, they. So that for me is Page of Pentacles, and that kind of is where the shadow can come in, because that kind of attitude of, well, what's in it for me? Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yes.
That is where the Page of Pentacles falls
Yes.
down for me.
So I think of also like nature as well, like a child attached to nature. I
Yeah.
think like literally earth, like the physical earth. I picture like a child running like barefoot, like kind of being but also, see, like when I first got into tarot, I actually thought of court cards in a very astrological sense. And even way before I got into tarot, and learned, a bit about all the new age kind of ideas about tarot.
Yeah.
I would think in terms of astrology. I'm not astrology expert, but I would always say, that guy, like, well, that person's a Leo, that makes sense. Or this person is, a Libra. They're, very air kind of logical, kind of in their head, or Aquarius. So I always tend to think in terms of astrology too, with the quartz. I wouldn't say it's like a chief influencer, but it's definitely in there, especially when I'm choosing like a significator. So that's what I think. I think of like Taurus, I think of like the earthly things as well.
Yeah. The only thing about astrology that I've found is that you've got the pages are missed out. There's only 12 astrological signs, and the pages aren't covered. Is that right?
Yes.
So I suppose
Jet,
that's the only thing.
say that one more time, Chris. I'm sorry. I was reading what Jess was writing.
No, you're
sorry.
okay. So I'm saying the only thing about making astrological associations to help with the courts is that the pages are missed, because there's 16 court cards and 12 astrological signs. So
Oh, no.
if I'm right, it's the pages that are missed off. Is that correct?
Yes. I
Yeah.
kind of cheat a little bit with the core cards, and I look at all three in each core card. So I
Right.
I look at like sort of like all the fire signs. I don't stick to. I think of like fire energy in terms of their astrological. Now, people who are probably into astrology and are very serious about the astrological correspondences may not like that, but for me, it seems to work well. Like, I will say, someone who's like Leo, Sagittarius, or Aries, like that Leo, Sagittarius, Aries sort of fire energy, because they all sort of have that fire energy in common, and so that's just the way I think about it.
Yeah.
It's not obviously the main thing, but it's like, if I was being completely honest with you at this point in my tarot journey, and I'm not an expert, and I always say, like, I am a student of tarot, and I will be for my life,
Yeah.
and that's the way I approach it. So that may change, the way I look at it, and one of these days I have to really brush up on astrology and sort of apply, whether it's the Golden Dawn or whatever method. I know that I think Carol Hertzer did a deck that did completely different astrological correspondences, and there are a few that use their own, but for the most part, I think most people use the Golden Dawn system. But yeah, so Jess said that hold on, let's see. I was reading. She's the court cards. Hold on, what did you say, Jess? I kind of lost it. The chat really moved up.
I've just seen the last comments you made.
Yeah. She saw it like a child that hold on, let me just get this right here. Oh, I lost it. I can't find it. Sorry, Jess. I was going to read your comment, but I just can't find it now. So, oh boy.
So I'm just
Oh
looking at
yeah,
my
it could be a young-minded person getting interested in money and possessions. So, like somebody who's getting into the interest of like commerce,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'm getting blamed here for
For what?
because Jamie's waiting on the Mary L to show up. I'm
Oh,
getting blamed for
just blame Mendy. That's
his
what I
time.
do. I blame Mendy. Right,
Um,
Naeem? Naeem knows about that. We just blame Mendy. It's all Mendy's fault.
right,
So what do we
shall
got
we
left?
move on to the Knights then?
Yes. Let's move
Cool.
on to the Knights.
So are we going to do the same order as before? So like cups, swords,
Just pick one.
wands.
I'll
Right.
never. I definitely don't even remember what order we did them in. To be honest with you.
Okay.
So you go ahead and choose whichever one you want to start with. I already know.
So I've got this Knight of Cups, from the Lightseers.
Nice.
He's a very sexy man, which is
Yes, he
why I
is.
picked him. And I have nothing further to say on the matter. No, I'm joking. So
We know all about it, Chris.
well, thank you very much. No, so Knight of Cups. So the Knights are all about action. If
Yes.
there's, for me, and I think we've been talking a wee bit about this, but I would associate the Knights with the fire element. So the Knights for me are all about that kind of action that comes with fire, that kind of instituting change. I
Yes.
know you said you like to think of the courts as a family. I kind of think about them, if I'm thinking about like Page, Knight, Queen, King, I
Yeah.
think about them almost as like a team, like almost like a team in my work. So your king is your manager; he's overseeing everything. Your
Yes.
queen is like your coach. Do you know what I mean? They're training the
Yeah.
new starts. Your pages are your new starts, so they'll work with the queens, and then your knights are the ones they're the worker bees. They're the ones that are basically getting all the shit done.
Yeah.
Without them, nothing gets done. The system falls apart. So
Yes.
the Knight of Cups, Cups is the suit of connections, emotional connections, connection to the to the unconscious.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, if you're being really nasty about him, I suppose he's a wee bit of a slut, isn't he? Because he's action and he's like he's a bit of a lover boy. Um, which no judgment here.
Absolutely
The
not.
the issue that the Knight of Cups can have is, so when you think about his elemental associations, he's got fire with as a knight, but he's got water because he's the Knight of Cups.
Yes.
And when you've got two opposite elements like that fight each other, they can clash. So this guy really needs to work on his balance. If that balance kind of goes ski whiff, if he goes out of balance, then he can be quite quite temperamental, quite capricious, and it can be prone to, quite self-destructive behaviour.
Yes.
So that's a real negative of being a Knight of Cups, I would say.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's my 2 cents worth on the Knight of Cups.
I'm going to go with the and again, I'm just choosing for the purpose of this because it's nearly impossible for me to choose my favorite, but this is one of, and this is the Illuminated again. This is the Knight of Cups, and it's the Grail Knight, essentially, in this. And I also like the Knight in the Knight of Cups in the Arthurian as well. But yeah, I agree with what you were saying there, and I think he's also sort of like you said, a player, somebody that is and a bit promiscuous, definitely. I mean, he's all of those things. So you pretty much said everything with that.
Yeah. Do
But
you
yeah,
do you subscribe? So see how when you look at the Death card and the Knight of Cups and the
yes,
Rider Waite together, you know how they look quite similar? Have you
yes.
got any theories about that, or because I don't, I'm clueless about it. It doesn't to me. I
No,
can't
not
think
really.
of why.
For me, they're just two different cards. I
Yeah.
mean, I wish I had. Do I have the death handy? Let's see. Find it in here.
Jesse says in all capitals, womanizer.
Yeah, definitely. He's. Oh, here we go. Yes, I mean it's definitely, very similar, but I just, for one, he doesn't have the cup. I mean, maybe he's the Grail Knight after he's passed on. Do you ever see Indiana Jones? What was it, the third Indiana Jones, where the knight, he like sort of Indiana Jones goes into the place to get the Grail, and he meets the knight, and he's like the Grail Knight, and he's
Right.
like mostly dead, but he's still alive. It's kind of that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah. I
But
don't really know the Indiana Jones films that well, to be
really,
honest.
oh,
No, I don't
good
know
one.
them very well.
Yeah, it's kind of like a modern take on the Grail, the Grail quest,
Yeah.
And that was actually my favorite. That was The Last Crusade, which was one of my favorites. But I just, I like this deck, this deck by Carl Hertzer. So I think it's definitely my favorite. Yeah, I don't really, have much more to say about that. So
Okay. What about Knight of Swords? I
So-
have gone.
if you don't mind, let me start with this, because this way I can sort of say some of the things that I was thinking before, beat you to the punch,
Right.
change it up a bit.
Steal them all.
So yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go with this Knight of Swords here, which is again in the Illuminated, and he's of course a man of action. He's very articulate, but he's a bit sort of immature. He's a little sort of quick, like he's quick to draw. He's very probably loses his temper a bit. He's sort of that type of person, but definitely has to do with action and with logic. But he's not as logical as say the Queen or the King. He's like he's more like the hitman. You know what I mean? He's the guy that you send out to like if you need to like assassinate somebody's character, or write a hit piece in the newspaper or something like that. Like that's how I think of the Knight of Swords.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. I've picked the one from the Shadowlands. So he's kind of riding this big giant bat, but you still get the same idea of the speed, you know.
Yes.
I like the fact that he's traveling through I'm saying he. It's not really a he, is it, in this deck? It's more just a wee funny person.
Yes.
But they're traveling through the air, still brandishing the sword. Do you know what I mean? So you still
Yeah.
get that idea of they're very quick to kind of brandish that sword.
Yes.
Of course, for the Knight of Swords, that's about it's more their words. Do you know what I mean? Their intellect.
Yeah.
They're very quick to kind of use their intellect to achieve their purpose, whatever that might be. Very, very intelligent person for me, the Knight of Swords. Kind of quite like what I said about the page, and that they can be quite arrogant sometimes.
Yes.
Especially if they feel as though they're talking to someone who's of lesser intelligence, and I really see that echoed throughout the Swords Courts.
Yeah.
What else was I going to say?
Very articulate too,
Yeah. So what you said about you said something about writing something about someone, but yeah, I see the Knight of Swords as being a complete, like a bit of a keyboard warrior. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
They'll kind of, and maybe if again going into that kind of shadow side, a bit of a
Yes.
troll, bit of an internet troll. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So see the
definitely.
people who are going on, and you see people like kind of commenting on Facebook posts, and they'll put comments that they see as kind of to bamboozle people just for the
Yes.
sake of displaying their own intelligence. That's for me is very Knight of Swords.
Do you think that the Page of Swords could also there's sort of like a kind of a fine line too with the Page
Definitely,
and the Knight,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like you
Yeah.
have that emotional immaturity. I don't know. See, I feel like for me the Knight is more in his prime. It's like he's but he's not not a master of his traits or his field. You know, whether he's like an attorney or someone who uses like logic and you know, as a profession, for instance. But he's a hotshot lawyer. You know what I mean? That's the way I think of him. He's like sort of the young hotshot lawyer, but he has some things to learn. You know, he's not like, again, the queen and the king.
Yeah.
Which I'll talk about when we get to the queen. But I love the Queen of Swords. She's just she's probably my favorite court card.
Yeah.
But we'll save that for when we get there.
Cool.
So what's next, Chris? What do we?
You got your Knight of Wands.
You go, because I didn't really pick one yet.
I've got the Knight of Wands from the Everyday Enchantment.
Yes.
Again, I think a lot of the reasons that I've kind of picked this card from this deck are because of how vibrant the images are. But when I look at this card, he's like, you've got the kind of the hints to the, you know, the fire element. Now,
Yes.
for me, the Knight of Wands is like, I don't know if you've got the Knight of Wands from the, you know, one of the Rider-Waite decks there, but
Yes.
I really like that he's
Somewhere.
on the horse is on two legs. For me, that's important, but that's important symbolism, because the Knight of Wands is the fire of fire, you know. Quite often when you've got too much fire and not anything to kind of calm it down, you can
Yes.
find yourself chasing your tail. You can be going round and round and round in circles with all this energy. Do you know what I mean? And for me, that's very, very Knight of Wands. And I can kind of get that in this card because he's got a spanner. Whoops. Oh, he's been thrown about. He's got a spanner in his hand. So he's obviously he's obviously working on fixing his motorbike. He's not even finished work. He's still got the spanner, and yet he's on the motorbike, like acting up for, you know, for all his admirers. So I can still pull the same thing from this, but yeah, for me that kind of high energy is what I can really pull from the Knight of Wands.
Yes. I'm looking for the Knight of Wands in this specific deck, and
It's always the thing that when you're looking for it, you can never find it.
yeah, no, I had it and I just misplaced it. You know, it's all right though. I'll find it somewhere here. So this is the Wheel of Change. I always forget it, by Alexandra Janetti, and I really like this this deck. And the core cards are kind of cool in it, but of course I can't find. Oh, here he is. All right, the Knight of Wands. That's just a really pretty one. Again, it's not like my favorite, but it's just one that I like. Oh, you know, for me.
Can you describe what's happening?
Yeah. So yeah, sorry about that. So basically, you gotta kind of look at it. It's a bit busy, but it's like sort of an looks like a monk of some sort, and he's you know, he's basically just in front of his I guess that would be like a temple, you know. But I don't know. I kind of like it. But I think of still the same way as, you'll just have to sort of look at that. That's a very busy and hard to describe image. And that's just like one that I grabbed. But for me, the Knight of Wands, again, I think of it astrologically. I think of them often as people in readings too. So if I see the Knight of Wands, I think of my partner, Steven. I think of all the Leos that I know. And, you know, it's like you said, you know, he sort of the same way. He's like very, very active, because he's like the most active of all the core cards, because he's, you know, active because he's a knight, but he's also active because he's that fire energy, you know. And I don't know if this core card depicts that at all, actually. I was actually thinking of another core card when I grabbed this, but you know, if you just look at this one, for instance, you know, he's like raring to go. He's somebody who just does whatever he wants to do, you know, and he's a bit on the fly probably. But he's, you know, he's very talented, probably, good worker, good with, probably good, creative in a way, but not so much creative, but somewhat creative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But,
No, I totally agree. Lots of creative energy in him.
yes. So,
Cool. And then the last knight that we have is the Knight of Pentacles. So do you want to go first here, or do you want me to?
no, you go first. You go first,
Okay.
because I don't even know which knight I'm going to show you.
So I've got the Knight of Pentacles from the Shadowlands.
Yes. I
Um,
like that deck.
so I love this particular knight because for me, the Knight of Pentacles is the slowest of all the knights.
Yes.
He's the one that's kind of, if you had a room and you had the 4 knights in the room, he's the one that would stand out the most because, he would be the odd one out because he's the one who's chilled out, who's kind of thinking about things before he speaks. He's thinking about what he's doing before he does it. Everything that the Knight of Pentacles does has a purpose behind it, and you can see that he's got in his hand, he's holding a money bag.
Yes.
So again, it's that Pentacles, it's that security that he's looking for. It's essentially he's looking for money in his hand so he can seek that security, and that's really important to the Knight of Pentacles. And I just love that he's riding a snail, just to really hammer home that idea of slowness. So yeah, I really like this wee guy. So I suppose that low speed, that focus can be both a good thing and a bad thing. It really just depends what you're looking for.
Yeah. Interesting. This is just a deck that I grabbed here. But it's the Knight of Coins, and this is, I forget her name in the movie. I'm trying to think, but she was this is the oh God, Jesus, I'm just going blank here. Game of Thrones, my God, and she's the sorry, she is the she's the lady. My God, I can't remember her name, but she became a knight, But
Right, okay.
I just thought that was pretty interesting. But again, like the Knight of Coins, he's the merchant. He's the guy who, is a very business-minded, very money-hungry, very somebody who wants to go out and sort of make money, but also probably, salt of the earth kind of guy. Good with his hands. Probably, connected to probably into like, hunting and fishing, things like that. But I just think of somebody sort of in their prime, like
Definitely.
at the top of their game, you know what I mean? But not like the maturity of the Queen and the King. So.
Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah, that's her name. Yes.
Jesse says, I think of the Knight of Pentacles as the one who's willing to put in the work, even if it's not glamorous. He's responsible.
Yes.
Neem has asked, what was it you were saying about Leos? You were saying something about Leo when we were talking about the Knight of Wands.
Yeah, for me, I think of oftentimes when I'm doing a reading, the way I approach court cards was mostly individuals. So I think of them as people, a lot of times, or I would think of them as, like a certain characteristic, like a trait, and it's very instinctual for me. It's hard to explain, but so for when I see the Knight of Wands, I always think of my partner, who's a Leo. I think of Stephen, because for me, he's the Knight of Wands. Sometimes he could be the Queen of Wands too, but I just think exactly. But that's just something I think about when I'm reading. I often think of them as people, but again, it's also characteristics too. So yeah, like you can't always be people. Sometimes I get like a reading, and there's like so many court cards, and I think like usually I think like there's a lot going on with like different people, between people. There's a lot of people in your lives. Like for instance, I did a reading for this one girl, and it was she's a friend of mine. And it was a relationship reading, and she got all male knights. And a lot of times I also think of knights as like lovers, too. As like out of all the core cards, I think of them as like lovers. And so, you know, like
So it's
pages I think of as children.
Right.
Queens I often think of as mothers, and kings as fathers. Not always, you know. A king could also be a boss. He could be somebody who is someone who is like in your life in like an authority kind of way. But the queen can also be that way too. Like female boss could be the queen.
Mhm.
But
So
yeah,
your friend that pulled the full house, did you tell her? Like, did you ask her what's going on? Did you say you should
no, I
make
just
sure you're using protection here? You've got all
I
four
just
knights here.
yeah, I said to her, I was like, you know, you got a lot of men in your life. I said to her. She was like, she started laughing, and it was totally true. I mean, it was a Celtic cross rating, and you know, I just had like one crossing her and one at her house, one like, you know, just like all over the map. And you know, so that's always like my first thing with core cards is people. Like I think of the people in your life. But you know, it's like if you get it like as like the top card in the cross, you know, it could be like striving to be like the Knight of Swords or the Queen of Swords, you know, applying the logic of the Queen of Swords, or like, you know, the bravery of the knight, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how I think of it in terms of reading often. But I'm trying to broaden that, and that's why I started reading this book. And I'm just trying to think of more ways to sort of use the core cards in a reading. And I think like anything else, it comes down to also like understanding the elements too.
Yeah.
That's something personally that I'm working with now is like I'm starting to develop my understanding of the elements a little more. And it's like you think you know them, but then you know you're starting to study things and you're like, oh well, you know, the more you think about it, the better you get at it, I feel like. And it's just like practice, you know what I mean? So it's like the core cards and the elements are obviously like any other card in tarot is tied. So
Yeah. I think it comes down to what you said about always being a student. Whenever you get to the place where you feel like you know it all, then that's probably an indicator that you've got a lot more to learn. Do you know what I mean?
yes, absolutely.
Because it's you know, tarot's one of these things where none of us are ever going to be 100% experts. We've all got stuff to learn every single day.
Definitely.
And I think it's really good that you can kind of, you know, you get to a point where you understand it and then you find some new way of looking at it. To me,
Yes.
that's part of the beauty of it.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm constantly changing. Like I'm not the same reader I was when I began. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like I'm constantly changing, and I go through phases. You know, like one week I'll be into the Tarot de Marseille, and the next week I'll be into the Rider-Waite-Smith. Back then I'm doing the Arthurian tarot and learning about the Arthurian legends and things like that. But I'll tell you what had a really big impact on me was, you know, talking to Rachel recently, and you know, her, you know, giving some advice. Some of her practical advice was, you know, just pay attention to what's going on in the cards, you know.
Yeah.
And that kind of hit me pretty hard because it's like it's sort of the same thing that people have always been saying. You know, I talked to Mendy and Chris, Yale, you know, and they're like very into the open reading style method. And with Rachel Pollack, sort of the same thing, but she does it in the RWS way. You know what I mean? And she does it with story.
Yeah.
So that's impacted me recently, and I'm sort of changing. I'm being more like sort of trying to look at the cards with fresh eyes every time I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every time I see them. So, but
Cool.
yeah.
So speaking of Chris has popped into the chat. Hi,
Hello, Chris. Good thing you missed the beginning. You know, you showed up fashionably late. It was a smart move today.
Let's see. Sue C says positive direction plus maturity plus elemental energy is where she started with the course.
Yeah.
Knight's Ride in and Ride Off.
That's all right.
Neem says Stephen is a great guy. He's a Leo, so he's great.
Oh, I should have known you were a Leo, Neem. I always hit it up. All of my female friends, especially, are all Leos. I swear. Like the majority of them, even at work, like all the girls that I get along with, like, but I'll fight with them too. Like this girl, Michaelina, she might be watching. I don't know. Hi, Michaelina, if you're watching. We are constantly arguing about little stuff, but she's like my best friend. But I love her. I actually went to school with her mother. She had her when she was young, and so she's, I think 19, Michaelina. But we work together, and she's just, of course, a Leo. And then there's another girl I get along with who's a Leo. There are Leos in my life everywhere. It's strange.
Yeah.
But I love Leos. I think that Leos are the most admirable of all the signs. I think it would be my favorite sign that I am not. I have no Leo anywhere in my chart, but they're very good, kind of loyal, strong, and very genuine people. Like very, very genuine Leos, I find, mostly. And of course, it's not always the case, but mostly. Anyway.
Cool. Right. You want to move on to the Queens? Are we quite happy?
Yeah, let's do the Queens. That's fine.
Keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
So Queen of Cups. Have you got a Queen of Cups prepared?
Do I have it prepared? No, but I have one here. I'm just gonna grab them. I'm gonna grab the yeah. Oh, I love this Queen of Cups. She's really, really, really good. When I see this, I think of like a woman sort of looking at the telephone, kind of waiting for like her lover to like call.
Right.
For some reason, that's what I see when I see this card. And she's obviously much more mature, kind of. She's been through the ringer. She's probably the most, obviously, like the Empress than any of well, no. I mean, that's Pentacles, but sort of like the Empress in a way, and that she's like loves her children. She's like probably a really good mother. You know what I mean?
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but she's, wears her heart on her sleeve. She's very emotional. Like emotional is a bad word to use, but like,
No, I would definitely agree with emotional.
Yeah, I don't like to say emotional because it sounds like I'm saying like women are emotional and stuff. But like, yeah, no, I just feel like she's, yes, very emotional kind of person, but also a very loving and kind person. I think of like, I think of people in my life. I think of like my friend's mom, my friend Tim, my best friend since we were in kindergarten. His mother is like the Queen of Cups. She's very, very loving, nurturing person, but she's also, very artistic. She is smart, but like in the sort of an artistic way. You know what I mean? And so I always associate them with people. I should have mentioned that in the beginning, but like I think of, people in my life. I'm saying, that I know, like oh, that you're the Queen of Cups. I think of that person, and it just makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good idea. Justin, I can all of a sudden hear myself being echoed. Oh, hang on, it's gone back to normal now.
Yeah,
I was hearing myself being echoed back for a bit there.
No, you're fine. You sound fine to me.
Right, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I think I might.
Today, Chris, we don't need any more technical problems. I'm going to quit YouTube. I'm going to quit YouTube here and now if it happens. No, I'm just kidding.
I think I look at the Queen of Cups a wee bit differently from you, to be honest.
Okay.
So you've likened her quite a lot to the Empress or the Empress. To me, that's more Queen of Pentacles. What you were describing there for me.
I agree with that. I just mean like in terms of being a mother, and I kind of clicked after I said it. Was like, oh well, no, she's earthly, more earthly, but But go ahead, continue. I didn't mean that like literally. She was the Empress.
I know. For me, Queen of Cups. I've picked the Queen of Cups from the Everyday Enchantment, by the way. But the Queen of Cups is the water of water. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of emotion in this person, and that's why when you were saying, she's an emotional person, or she's like kind of very in touch with her emotions, I completely agree with that. I see the Queen of Cups as being very, very like the High Priestess, actually.
Yeah.
She's
intuitive. Sure.
Yeah, if there's going to be a tarot reader in in the tarot, if there's a card in the tarot that represents a tarot reader, it's either going to be the High Priestess or the Queen of Cups for me.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about the Queen of Cups is, you know, they can be quite detached. They can almost get lost in their own kind of emotions, and they can find it quite difficult to find their way out of all that
Yeah.
water. Is what I would say about the Queen of Cups. But it's a really nice kind of image in this card. It's you know, she's sitting, she's having a cup of coffee. I don't know if she's meant to be a homeless person, or she's sitting with a homeless person, or maybe there's no homeless person at all, but it's just this idea of sitting outside. It looks as though sitting outside in the cold with a dog, having a cup of coffee. Yeah, I really love the image in this card. So yeah, Queen of Cups, very emotional, very in touch with their emotions, with their feelings. You know, Cups for me, it's not just about emotions and emotional connections. It's about connecting to your unconscious or
Yes.
subconscious, depending on what, you know, how you use those words.
Sure.
But your emotions it's like you're kind of, it's your unconscious speaking to you, isn't it? It's like your reactions to things that are happening to you.
Yeah.
But it's also things like your intuition, you know,
Oh yeah.
psychic abilities, if you look at things that way, if you
Oh
believe
yeah.
in that. It's all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's how I kind of link that stuff in with the Queen of Cups.
Definitely. No, I agree with you with intuition. Definitely. For some reason it didn't occur to me while I was talking, but you know, something like when you think about it and then, you know, comes to you.
Yeah.
You know, definitely intuition for sure. And definitely the High Priestess. I mean, as soon as you said it, I agreed with you.
Yeah.
With that. I just was thinking in terms of being a mother. So sort of, I think all the queens are linked to the Empress in a way. Just
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
like
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
Empress is like, you know, she's sort of the queen of like all the four realms, whereas the queens in the court cards are like of their specific domain, you know.
Definitely.
But definitely emotional. I mean, you know, because you, like you said, you know, you have the you know, she's like the water of the water, sort of like the Knight of Wands, same thing, you know.
Yep.
So
So
where are we at now? I'm just trying to think.
the next one's the Queen of Swords. So we've got Neem's saying, so to me, Queen of Cups is very nurturing and emotionally encouraging, but stable. She's the one
Yes.
who says it's okay to cry, let it out, but you
Oh
still
yeah.
have to get it done. So cry and then get back to it. Chris is saying emotional and intuitive intelligence. I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Have you got a Queen of Swords?
Yes, I can grab one real quick, you know. So like you're very much one of those people where you have like a favorite card in every deck. I'm not really like that. Like I have favorite kind of I do have favorites, but just not like that way. But these are just decks I'm using lately is basically what I'm doing. And so yeah, Queen of Swords, right?
Yep.
So this is the Conrad Stein's the Naked and Cut, and I like this one too.
Yeah.
And I really like the Queen of Swords. She's probably my favorite of all the queens for sure. And she's like a no nonsense kind of, you know, woman. She just doesn't tolerate any bullshit at all. She
Yeah,
will
definitely.
cut right through it. She can see you coming a mile away. You know, she's very articulate, very smart, probably, you know, very successful in her job, which is probably like a lawyer or like somebody who you know writes or speaks or communicates in some way and thinks and very logical. But she's also, you know, I think I read once she's like the only queen that is not married to the king. Like in other words, she's a widow. She's like the widow queen. She's known to be like, you know, she is the I think the like the sister of the king, something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like she's a single lady, basically, is what the Queen of Swords is. I don't know where that legend comes from, really. And I don't know how it factors in like elementally, like how she is. But she's just no nonsense, you know. And I guess maybe it's because she has been through a lot and she's experienced a lot of negative stuff, and you know that makes her sort of, you know, like have no tolerance for nonsense. But
Yeah.
she's also very smart, and she can be loving, and you know all of those things too. You know, she still has that part of the Empress in her. You know what I mean? But she is, you know, like just no nonsense. But I like this. I like this Naked and Cut deck because it's, for one, it's easy to handle, and the art just looks really great. And this one is really particularly pretty too. The art by all the modifications that Conrad made. You know.
Yeah, the
I've
Naked
been
and
using this
Cut
a
is
lot.
definitely one I've got my eye on.
Yeah, I just particularly like the Naked and Cut one because it's just the images. And you know, again, with the Carol Hertzer decks, the same thing. I just sort of like the images a lot of times. But it's also a nice size too. It's like a mini, but it's not too small. You know, it's kind of like, if you,
All right. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's basically a standard size card. But yeah, so that's the Queen of Swords for me. She's
Cool.
kind of cuts through the bullshit, no nonsense. I often associate her with like divorce in a reading, or like widowhood. You know, a lot of times, like I did a reading once for my friend's mom, my friend Steve's mom, and I sat down and I was like, she's going to definitely get the Queen of Swords, and it was the very first card that I drew down. And just to me, that's an indication of like a woman who has lost, you know, her husband, or you know, divorced, single, very independent.
Yeah. She's a very independent person, isn't she? And I think that's why, you know, she will signify a lot of kind of single women or single people, just because of that kind of independence of mind that she has.
Yes.
I've picked the Queen of Swords from the Marielle. So it's Odin's two ravens, thought and memory, that are depicted here. And I just love this image of the Queen of Swords. I love this kind of idea of the Queen of Swords because, you know, the Queen of Swords, she is all about, you know, thinking about your actions, think about the consequences of your actions, you know, and memory is like, you know, learn from your mistakes, learn from the past. The Queen of Swords she'll help you learn it. If you want to learn something, if you're looking to kind of acquire knowledge, she'll be there to help you learn, but she can't abide people that don't take responsibility for, you know, their actions, for their mistakes. She can't be bothered with people who, you know, they don't think about, you know, the cause and effect thing, you know, the consequences of their actions. And that's why I really love that card for the Queen of Swords. I think it's a beautiful depiction.
Yeah, I like it. I did like that, the Mariel. I didn't get that one either, and that's one I've sort of heard some mixed reviews about. I think that's the one that Jess doesn't like. Jess is not the frequency
Yeah.
lock, but I think that was the one that Jess.
Jess is away, so Jess had to leave because she had the vet coming.
Oh.
But yeah, I remember Jess, or maybe it was you that told me that that Jessie didn't quite like this one.
Yeah, but I didn't really give it a chance. I gotta look at it and see it, because I didn't really look at it. You know what I mean? But it's one that I didn't. I always get that mixed up with what's the other one? The
Goliath.
Yeah, Goliath. I always get the two mixed up. But neither of them I have. I have enough decks. I don't need any more. Although I have like 10 on the way. So. But so we are on what, Queen of
Wands.
Oh yeah.
So what have you got for this?
Well,
I quite like my selection for this one. This is a different one.
Again, I didn't really pick any specific deck. I was just going to talk about the Queen of Wands, but this one's, you know, I'm sticking with the Conrad Stein deck here, and it's you know, very fiery. Again, Leo, I think, fiery kind of. You know, she's like very successful, very goes to the gym every day. You know, she's always on the move. You know, that's what I think of. I think of like, you know, I try to think of like, it's a little game I play, but I try to think of like one of my friends' mothers from growing up, and I'm like, who best matches the Queen of Wands, you know? And it's like, I can't really think of anybody specifically, but it's just like that, you know, very motivated, kind of fiery woman, you know.
Yeah.
And but I think again, you know, like in terms of Leos, I think always because I'm married to a Leo, but you know, I think like that fire energy, you know, just I'll let you talk, Chris, because you're much better at explaining these things than I am, so I'm just gonna listen to you.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think that the Queen of Wands, sorry, just to, Ben had said, do you think the Queen of Swords would be fair to others? Strict but fair, yeah, totally.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know, like,
Justice.
I mean, I think if she's in shadow, then she's not above using her intellect to manipulate and get her own way. So maybe if she's in shadow, then she would be quite decisively unfair. But you know, if she's upright, if she's not kind of too much in shadow, then yeah, I would totally agree.
Yeah.
Very kind of like strict and kind of by the book, but like kind of very kind of fair. For my Queen of Wands, I've picked the Raven's Prophecy Queen of Wands, and it's such a simple image, I know, but for me, it's a really powerful image because I see the Queen of Wands as being like kind of the celebrity of the tarot world.
Yeah.
She's got the fire element, but she's also got the water element from being a queen.
Yeah.
So she's the one who can really stand to be in the heat. So see that heat of the limelight, the public, you know, being out in public.
Yeah.
She can really handle that, and like that, I think that's what the sunflower resembles on
Yes.
the deck that you held up. Excuse me, because well, actually, I think it's a bit of a myth that sunflowers do that. I think it's only young sunflowers, but the idea of the sunflower is that it turns to face the sun. You know, it turns to be
Yeah.
in the light, and that's the Queen of Wands for me is happiest when she has all eyes on her, when the attention's on her.
Yeah.
The reason I really like this image is because the Queen of Wands' power is very much in her words. When she opens her mouth to say something, the
Yeah.
room quietens down and everybody listens because everybody's interested in what she's got to say, and she holds so much power
Yeah.
in those words, so much passion, you know, and that's really kind of for me really kind of shown in this card.
Yeah.
And I suppose that takes me to the kind of shadow aspect of it, where it's she can be a bit too much of an attention seeker, you know.
Yes.
When all eyes aren't on her, she can be a wee bit, you know, it's what I was saying about the Knight of Cups, I guess. It's the idea of the fire and the water, you know. When she's not in balance, she can be quite
Yeah. So I was going to say to you, I mean,
bad-tempered.
do you see, you know, you see as like a 50-50 kind of balance between, you know, the fire energy and the water energy, or do you see like, you know, slightly more fire energy because she's the Queen of Wands? You know, is it like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think that all depends on. So what I
yeah,
would say,
that
right,
makes sense.
is I don't think that a card is either, I don't think a person is either like that or like that. I think that there's a spectrum. Do you know what
Oh
I
yeah,
mean? And it
for
really
sure.
depends where you are on that spectrum. And where you are on that spectrum determines, you know, if you're here, then you might be a complete, you know, a nice 50-50
Yes.
balance or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, the balance isn't necessarily going to be 50-50 for everyone. That's not necessarily the right balance for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, you might identify as a Queen of Wands and you might like to have like 60% fire and 40% water, whereas for me, if I was a Queen of Wands, I might prefer a bit more water, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, it's a really interesting thing, and I could probably talk everyone to death down to 0 viewers.
No,
So
I'm
I
glad
won't
that.
get too much into it, but
No, I really am happy to have you on here because you're really like, you are like when I first watched you, I saw you on Lucian's page. You know, him and
Russ
Dave's. Yeah. And then I saw you on Robin's. I was like, wow, I'd like to have a conversation with this guy. But then, of course, you and I hit it off, you know, on a personal level, and we, you know, became fast friends. But initially with you, when I was watching you, I was like, you know, this is a kid that's really passionate about these cards. He's very, very passionate, and you're good at sort of, you know, explaining that, which makes you a brilliant reader. It really does. I have my moments,
you.
you know what I mean, where I can come sort of, you know, it's like some days I'm really, really good at it, other days I'm not. But I admire that about you. It's because it seems to me like you are very passionate about the cards, you know.
Thank you very much.
And you put a lot of thought into the details of it. Whereas I think I tend to have a tendency to sort of, I'm more of a conceptual reader. Like I tend to glaze over certain details of the art. And I think I think I'm the kind of reader lately, mostly, and I'm trying to change this and get more involved in the art. But I think sometimes if I just see Page of Wands, I already know what I'm going to say before I even look at the art. Like, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like sometimes I just read the title of the card and I'm like, well, I already have it worked out in my head. And I think it's just the way my mind works. It's a bit different than, but I do appreciate the art. So I'm not saying like I love the art. It's just as far as reading is concerned, I'm more think about that. If that makes any sense.
It does, and I think that's a great thing that you can, you know, all you really need is the title and you're off. I feel as though
Sometimes.
my imagination needs a wee bit more to maybe kind of get on that train, whereas
Yes.
like you're kind of maybe just not as visual all the time as what I am.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not as visual as a lot of people because sometimes like I totally have ADD and like when it comes to things like that, like I will not pay attention. I'm like more thinking like what I think of. It's hard to explain. And everybody's mind works differently, you know.
Yeah.
Our minds all work differently, and you can't really tell like how the other people see it. But you know, for me, like that's just how. But I am doing more. Like I said, you know, this conversation with Rachel sort of, you know, made me think a lot about. And it's not the first time I've thought of this, but you know, made me think of being more aware of what there is to see in the cards visually, you know.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm working on. But again, like you are very, very passionate about the cards, and you really I think that's what it is with you. It's your passion for the cards that makes you very, very, very interesting to talk to with tarot. So anyway.
Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm not very good at
appreciate
taking
it.
compliments, though. I just kind of sit here and I'm like, oh, that's
It's all right. I'm not good at giving them, so don't worry about it.
or some pair. Right, Queen
Unless
of
I'm drunk.
Pentacles,
When I'm drunk, I'll be
Big
like,
Mama of the Tarot.
say one more time. Say again.
I said the Queen of Pentacles is the Big Mama of the Tarot.
Oh yeah.
Who's your Queen of Pentacles?
I don't know. I'm just gonna show you the deck. I guess I'm gonna go with if I can find her.
I'll have a wee look and see if there's any comments just now.
Yeah, look at the comments.
Modern Metaphysicae. So is it Metaphysicae or Metaphysicae?
Metaphysicae, I think.
Metaphysicae. Queen of Wands is the everyday expression of temperance. Yeah, I get that. It's that idea of the balancing the different elements. Queen of Wands likes her cats too. She gets my vote. Ben, have you seen pictures of Ben's cat, Cece? Ben has got the most
he loves his cat.
beautiful cat. He does, but his cat is absolutely gorgeous. She's got such vibrant colours. I'm not even a cat person, but I love Ben's cat. I want to meet Cece.
She's a little
I want to
English.
meet Ben too.
I said that to Ben. I was like, Ben, your cat's a little English kitty. I don't know. I'm like, you know, she just looked English to me. Like looking at the kid, she's beautiful, but she looks like an English kitty. He started laughing. We're gonna go have like tea and cake in the garden with Cece. Oh boy. I don't know. I have here, of course, the new choice, Queen of Pentacles. And yeah, she's the most like the Empress, right? You know, she's very earthly, very grounded, very common sense kind of woman. Like, you know, very much skeptical about a lot of things. You know, she doesn't believe everything she hears. She has to see it. She's like one of those people. She has to see it to believe it. You know. Also very stubborn. I feel like, you know, I think of like Taurus a lot, but like, they're very stubborn people. Earth signs. I feel like they have hard heads, but they're very like kind of planted in the ground. You know what I mean? They don't budge on things. So with her, you know, but she's also very good with her finances, and you know, she's, you know, the earthly kind of mother. You know. Yeah, I think and that's what I think of when I think of the Queen of Pentacles. She's most like the Empress than anyone, you know.
Hen has got to run.
Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for coming in.
Sorry
Hen.
for the
Lovely
rough
to see
start,
you.
and you know, be a little more organized next time. But it just threw me off, the whole technical thing. It was like, you know, it was like the worst possible thing that could happen on my first live, because I'm like, I had it all set up, I researched everything, and then it just didn't work. But anyway,
Ach, it was fine. It took
I
what?
know it wasn't
5,
that.
10
How
minutes
long
to
was
sort.
it? It took us about 10 minutes. Sorry.
Aye, not even that, I don't think.
Good. It just seemed like it took forever because I was like in a panic, but it's all right.
Yeah.
Good now.
Cool. Right. My Queen of Pentacles is from Lightseers. I just think this image is serene. She's
Yes.
just gorgeous. So she is. She's amazing. When I see Queen of Pentacles, so Pentacles for me, I like to think of each of the suits as a journey. Do you know what I mean? They've all got an objective. They've all got something that's really important to them. And
Yeah.
for Pentacles, it's that element of earth. It's the security. You know, it's feeling safe and secure.
Sure.
And that's why we associate things like health and money and all
Yes.
these material things. These are all things that make us feel secure in our everyday lives. Yeah. So the
That's a good
Queen
point.
she's the protector. She's the kind of the coach. She's the person who's teaching the kids. So this is what I was meaning when I'm saying if I think of any of the suit courts as being a family, it's the Pentacles. Because I think of the Queen of Pentacles as being like the big mama. She is the one who's kind of looking after her kids. She'll nourish them. She brings them up. She'll discipline them if she needs to. But she's the kind of mum who, she's all about her kids. She looks after them. And I've said this, but I think I've said this to Ben before. The Queen of Pentacles, as loving as she'll be and she'll come across as a lovely person, she'll sleep with a baseball bat under her bed in case she needs to get up and kick some ass. If she needs to protect her family, she will do that. That is Queen of Pentacles. She's like, do you know the film I mean when I'm saying Big Mama's house?
Yes.
That it's that kind of idea. It's that energy that I'm meaning.
Yeah, like if you seem like the makes me think of like animals, like like the natural mother instincts of like an angry bear in the woods, protecting
animals. I thought you said Hannibal, as in Hannibal Lecter. I was like,
yeah,
I don't know what you mean there.
I know a few cannibals and
some favicons
just
and a nice Chianti.
Exactly. I thought maybe like that natural maternal kind of earthly kind of maternal thing, like use is very much the most present in or the most visible with animals.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Cool. So then we're on to the Kings. And are you still quite happy to keep going, by the way?
Yeah, we could just talk about the each briefly. We could just talk. We don't have to show like our favorites. I mean, unless you want to. I mean, you can.
Okay.
But
well, why don't I just show them all at once, just for the sake of quickness?
Yeah.
So I've got the King of Cups from the Everyday Enchantment. You see this dad. He's kind of playing with his kids. I've got the King of Swords from the Marielle. Okay, you can see the kind of feathers coming out his head. There's like kind of there's really kind of beautiful imagery around about his head, and of course with
Yeah.
the swords, it's all about the brain, the mind.
Yes.
The King of Wands from the Shadowlands, he's this kind of fiery kind of creature.
Yes.
And then you've got the King of Earth, or the King of Pence from the New Era Elements, and he's this kind of
Is that what that is?
like,
That the black and white? Okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's the New Era Elements. So he looks like a farmer to me. He looks very much like a
Yes.
kind of physical, like kind of
Sir.
man of the world, a manual worker type thing, someone
Yeah.
who works hard. So those are my favourites. So in general, talking about the kings, like I really draw on the link between them and the emperor. So the king and the emperor, they're all about, protecting the security of, the family or the kingdom or whatever it is. It's all about kind of seeing the bigger picture, and making sure that, things happen in the sequence that they're supposed to happen to
Yes.
maintain that balance, that stability and security of
Yeah.
the operation. So like the King of Cups, he's all about kind of his connections, his family. He's the kind of one who's got to kind of balance it out with his kids. If his kids are fighting, he'll be kind of very fair and a balance between them. Um, the like King of Swords, obviously he's the heir of air. He's all about his mind. He's all about his intellect, which is why I
Yes.
really love this image.
Hmm.
Um, with the kind of feathers coming out the head. There's some images of the King of Swords in the everyday enchantment. He's a barrister. He's all about the evidence.
Yeah.
Everything is like about fact and reason. Um, so yeah, that's just a quick gloss over what the kings mean to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, definitely linked to the emperor, structure and discipline, that, that emperor energy, and, definitely correlates with the elements, like you said, with swords and, like, logic and, um, uh, earthly, finances, just a very disciplined kind of guy, so I definitely agree with everything you said. You pretty much
Yeah.
covered it all. But you know,
So this is interesting. Sue in the chat has said that the King of Wands is her stalker card right now.
really,
Yeah. So King of Wands, why would that be your stalker card, Sue? So for me, the King of Wands he's the one sitting forward in his chair. He appreciates that he's got an important job to do, that he needs to oversee the security of his kingdom. So
yeah,
Wands being about creativity, passion. For me, the Wands is it's your journey to finding purpose. Yeah.
yeah,
So he realizes that he's got a job to do and that he needs to kind of maintain that kind of balance, that stability. But at the same time, he's still got that fire element. You can't take that fire element
yes,
out of him. So he's sitting forward in his chair. He's dying to get in and be a part of it. So for me, that's the King of Wands. So if that's your stalker card, then maybe that's depending on what situation you find yourself in just now, Sue, it might be telling you, right, I know that you want to get in and about it. I know that you want to get your hands dirty and just get the job done. But sometimes in life, we need to kind of oversee, we need to delegate rather than try and just do everything
yeah,
ourselves. If I want it done right, I need to do it myself. That's kind of how the King of Wands can feel. And sometimes it's uncomfortable to have to take that step back and delegate out and just kind of oversee it. But that's an important process that we kind of need to learn to do. Or equally, maybe it's the other way about. Maybe it's you find yourself where you're not taking much action, and the King of Wands is telling you, do you know what, it's okay to take some action sometimes. You don't always have to be sitting in that seat stoic and chained to it. You've still got that fire element in you. You can still institute change and carry out the action that you want to carry out. So depending on okay, so I have loads of projects starting. Need a kick up the butt to get going, I think. I'd love to delegate. Okay, so maybe there's a wee bit of both. If you've got loads of projects that you're looking to start, then maybe the King of Wands is telling you, remember you've got that fire in you. remember that you've definitely got it in you to do this. So you just need to kind of activate that fire within yourself and take that action.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went off on a wee tangent there.
No, it's fine. I'm listening to you. You're really all about it. It's great. You definitely have your understanding of the core cards. Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly like you said pretty much everything. I mean, I always like the King of Cups. I mean, who do you identify with out of all the kings? Do you identify with, like, for me, I think it's the King of Cups.
See, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because
Well, I'm definitely not mature, and I'm definitely not a king. I'm definitely more page. Sometimes I'm knight, but usually page.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Queen once in a while. No, I'm kidding. But
yeah, you're a big queen, Justin.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I feel the same. That's why I find it hard to pick, because I don't think of myself as an expert in anything.
Yes.
I don't really feel as though I should be completely in charge of anything. I like to have that lifeline, that security of someone to be able to pull on and say, shit, it's gone tits up, how do I fix this, kind of thing, you know? So yeah, no, I'm not really sure. If I identify with any court card, if you made me pick one, it would probably be the Page of Cups. But I think we all kind of take on Page of Cups.
Oh, you mean, okay, I see. In general.
Yeah, so if I was to pick anyone out of the 16, it would be the Page of Cups. But I think, what was I going to say there? I think that we all embody aspects of different court cards at different times. So, like right now, us speaking, I might be kind of be showing aspects of one court card, but then tomorrow when I sign on my laptop and I start my work, I might be a completely, I go into a totally different headspace, and I might be a totally different court, So I think that we all take on combinations of different courts and different parts of our lives.
So, Chris, let me ask you: when you're doing readings, is it more about? Well, do you use a significator, for instance? Do you choose a significator? Do you read with a significator out? Do you pick one and put it back in the deck?
No, I don't tend to. No, I really don't. It's interesting because I've always just looked at it like, well, what if that card wanted to come up in the reading? So I've always thought I don't want to take one away. But then I was reading, I've been reading 78 Degrees of Wisdom for like the longest time ever, because I'm such a slow reader and I've got such a short.
That's the kind of book you want to read slow anyway.
Yeah.
I find that book, I probably read it 3 times in my life, but it hasn't been in a while. I'm more into tarot wisdom now.
Yeah.
A bit, but and I still have to finish Forest of Souls, which is really it's a shorter kind of book on tarot by her, and it's one of her lesser known ones, but I really enjoy it. And she talks, it's more like from a holistic kind of approach to tarot. It's like less about fortune telling, more about like developmental kind of approach. But I really like it. But anyway, what we were saying, I totally ADD moment. Totally cut you off.
So yeah, in 78 Degrees, Rachel talks about when she wrote that book, she was saying that she does use a significator.
Yes.
And she says that there's a significance of the number 77.
Yes.
So obviously when you take one card out of the deck, you've got 77 left, and she talks about how there's a significance in that, and I think it's just because it's a double 7, and 7's like a kind of magical number. So
that's why I always read with a significator myself, because of because of reading all that time ago, and it just kind of stuck with me.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so I'm kind of getting more open to the idea of using one, but still I've not done it yet.
So in this book I'm reading now by Mary Greer and Tom Little, it's actually pretty interesting because they mention a few different approaches, and I thought of this and I was like, well, what's the point? But basically, you choose a significator and then you shuffle it back into the deck. And I thought that was like a really good idea, I was like, what's the point at first? But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, if the card shows up in the reading, and it sort of puts more kind of input, it sort of gives you like another tool in a reading. Like in other words, if you choose the page of, or the Queen of Pentacles, and then you shuffle it back in the deck, and then it comes up, in like a different position, it's sort of going to give you like, that card represents you. So I thought that was interesting. But one thing they did do was they mentioned this like a sort of a spread or a technique you can do, and it's something I liked, and I was sort of tinkering around with the idea of it. But what you do is you pick a significator, or you choose your significator based on whatever whatever your system is or whatever your preference is, and then you shuffle it back in the deck, right? And then you sort of turn cards over until you get to it, and I believe it's the first card before it. Hold on, I got it written down exactly how it is.
Is this what me and Robin were doing?
Were you guys doing it? I don't know. I didn't.
Well, we did it for you, didn't we? So you basically pick, and it wasn't just a significator. It's basically a card that represents the situation you feel that you're in.
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess you guys did do it.
Yeah, or something similar.
I was listening to you from work, so I wasn't watching. I was listening, but yeah, that's fine. But yeah, what you do is you basically, so you put like the card, the two cards that go before it, you put, so you lay 5 cards out, right? So you have the 2 before it, you have the significator, and then you have the 2 after it. You know what I mean? So you have 5 cards across. So and then that's your reading. And I just thought that was pretty cool too. It was like a different sort of approach to choosing a significator. You know what I mean? Right. It's like a 5-card reading.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
I didn't know exactly if that's exactly what you guys did, but this was more about...
it's not. It's not quite the same. So we did it with 3 cards first of all, and what we did was we rather than use a significator, like as in a court card significator, we used like one that you feel represents your situation. So for example, Robin was the 3 of Wands. You were the Hanged Man.
Yes.
We had different, I think Hen, when she did it with us as well, she picked the 8 of Cups, So we did it to pick a card that kind of represents a situation that you find yourself in.
Yes.
And you'll read the 2 cards on either side. But yours sounds a bit different. So with you basically be finding the court, the significator, and then reading the 2 cards on either side.
Exactly. Like in other words, you shuffle it back in completely, and then you draw out. You find that card, and then you put the 2 cards you see before it down in front of the cards. And actually, it all depends. In the book, they're saying it all depends on the way he's facing. So like if he's facing to the right, then you put it's a bit tricky, and you generally don't do that. Like if I'm doing a Celtic cross, I generally just put like the card behind the card. I don't really look at the way he's facing, because like I remember reading Waite's book, and he mentioned to do that like in a spread, like depending on which way he's facing. But I just do behind is behind, and if he's looking that way, then it's so be it. But
yeah,
I never really did that.
Chris has made a comment. Let me just find that again. King of Wands in the sheets, King of Swords in the streets.
Say it again?
King of Wands in the sheets, King of Swords in the streets.
You got that right. Okay, Chris. That's pretty funny.
Right, are you wanting to try this? Or you want to try and pull some cards this
way?
Oh yeah,
you want to do sure. You could do that, or just do whatever you like. But yeah, I mean, if you want to try that, sure. You want to do some readings, Chris?
We're
kind of running out of time. Maybe we do like 1 or 2 for somebody. I'll let you could do the reading. I'm not going to do any reading. But if you want me to, I will. I mean, I know it's almost 6 o'clock, so we've been on for quite a while. I don't want to take up too much time, right? It's got to be getting late there too, right?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, rather than doing that, why don't we just pull 1 card then? Pull 1 card for everybody for, well, what are we? We're midweek now, so for the second half of the week. Is that good with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. It'd be funny if I pulled a court card now, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'll do the same.
Okay,
Do a 1 card draw. That seems fair enough.
do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Go first. Doesn't matter. Oh, I had a jumper. So that's
And you go.
that's that. 3 of Swords.
Ooh.
This is the yeah, see, I don't know. I have a couple different ways of looking at the 3 of Swords, and they're not always negative. But it could be problematic, problem developing between 2 individuals, or it could be some sort of conflict emerging between in a partnership, whether it's a romantic thing or it's a work relationship or something like that. Like the 3 of Swords can be something driven into the heart of the matter. You know what I mean? It's for me, it's always about could be a conflict, but it doesn't always have to be. I mean, you think of the number 3, it could also be something positive, coming from like some kind of idea emerging from 2 individuals, or like the result of 2 individuals. So I think it can go either way. Like in life, it can be good or it can be bad. But I'm not very much a predictive kind of tarot reader. I just sort of look at the ideas, but those are the 2 polarities. So you have, in one sense, you have, you can have the conflict, or you can have some sort of idea emerging. Could be too, depending on situation.
Okay.
So
So this is an interesting one because I've pulled the 10 of Swords. So this is the 10 of Swords for the Light Seers, which is probably one of my favourite 10 of Swords in all of tarot. Probably closely followed by the Anna K 10 of Swords. So she's not lying in the ground. She's not stabbed with 10 swords. She's got up. Despite her pain, she's got up and she's moving on. And the Anna K shows the same thing. And in the first edition of this deck, it shows the 10 of Swords with the scars.
Yeah.
The 10 scars on her back. So you looked at so for the 3, you've obviously, it's a card of growth, yeah, and it can be, it's opening up the truth. Do you know what I mean? It's seeking the truth. It's actively seeking the truth. That's what I kind of see that as. And for the 10, I mean, sometimes the truth hurts. When you cut to the heart of the matter, and you get all of the facts just as they are. They're not dressed up.
Yeah.
We, as a society, as a human society, we don't really tend to like the truth very much.
No.
We and I'm not saying that it's always a bad thing.
It's like very subjective, the truth, but yet it's not.
Yeah. And like we like to say that we value the truth, right?
Yeah.
But see, when you actually think about it practically, do we really? If
Correct.
I was to walk down the street and tell the absolute honest truth about everything that I see, there's a pregnant lady, she's fat. There's, do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's not always appropriate to tell the absolute truth. It's part of our nature as humans that we do dress things up, and that is, to me, that's why the 3 of Swords can be such a painful card sometimes, because quite a lot of the time the truth hurts, but that's okay because we grow from it. We learn. Although the truth can be painful, sometimes we need that truth in our lives, and we need to kind of gain that understanding to further ourselves, to whether you're looking at the swords as increasing your understanding, killing your ego, do you know what I mean, dealing with your shadow self. We need, it's a process that we need to go through. And there's kind of, although a lot of us look at this card as being a very negative card, for me it's quite a positive card actually, because it's basically telling you that you're able to deal with all that pain. yeah, it's a painful process that you go through, but you can get up and you can walk on. You know, there's a new sunrise in the horizon,
Yes.
and it's time to move on. And you know,
I like
with
that.
all the stuff that we've learned. So
Well, I was
yeah,
just gonna say, I like that card, that image that you were saying. I like it. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. Birds too are like, historically messengers too. I mean, like if you think about, and when they send a raven, are they ravens? I wonder. Or they look black.
Yeah, they're definitely blackbirds.
Yeah.
But whether they're ravens or I think they are. I think typically that's
It's
what.
like in Game of Thrones. Jesus, my brain is not working today. Game of Thrones. They're always like send a raven. It's kind of it's very interesting. Or like pigeon carriers too, same idea. But
Yeah.
I do like that it doesn't really put a spin on it, because if you think about the numbers like numerologically, depending on how you approach it,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It depends on which deck you're reading too. Like with this with the Marseille, you have a little more flexibility with the numerology, and I don't think that swords are always something negative, like some kind of conflict or something. They can be, they often are, but it doesn't have to be. It could also be like ideas and creative ideas, things like that. So it's
Yeah.
kind of tough with one card because you don't have any other cards. But with the two cards, it's interesting. You have the 3 and the 10.
Yeah, definitely.
And that puts a nice little spin on it. So
Yeah. And that's why I really like this, because like you say, when you do think about it numerologically, for me, your 9s are your kind of final actions, completion, The
yes.
10s is when the cycle kind of renews itself. It's
Oh yeah.
almost the 10 is almost the renewal, the moving on, which is why I love this depiction
Yeah.
of the 10 of swords, because it's
Yes.
the 9 of swords is when you deal with all that kind of that high mental energy, that kind of emotional and psychological pain that we quite often go through.
Yes.
But the 10 is when you come out the other end of it and you move on with everything you've learned
Yeah, it's like
behind you.
1 and 0. It's a contradiction. It's just like beginning and end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the beginning
Yeah,
of something new, the end, or the end of something, and the beginning of something.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting what that with the numbers with the number 0 does when it's next to another number. It has no value, but when you put it next to a number, it increases the value tenfold.
Yeah.
And changes the whole process. But yet it's still 10 is still sort of like 1 starting over.
Yep.
Hey, well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on today and talking about core cards. We'll have to do it again sometime with another topic. And thanks everybody for tuning in and checking out my first live video. Now I think I got it down to a science. I think it'll be good next time. Will be much better. But thanks for everybody for tuning in, and thank you, Chris, for doing this. It was a lot of fun, and you're like my training wheels today. You're sort of introduced me, get my foot wet into the live thing. I don't know what it is about lives. Like I've been doing YouTubes for now about a year, and I'm totally good with pre-recorded videos, but for live video is always really intimidating me, and something I really wanted to do, but I just didn't really. I guess I don't know. I was talking to Ben about it too. It's like, I don't know why you get nervous about some things and not about others, but I just was a bit nervous. So this was sort of like facing kind of like I don't know about a fear, but like, maybe a little bit, it was like kind of doing something that was a little bit difficult to do, but I'm glad that I did it. And now I know how to do it. And you were very instrumental in helping me do that. And I appreciate that. And I thank everybody for tuning in, and hopefully we will talk soon.
Yeah, well, listen,
you
the
wanna
honour was
say?
all mine. I'm honoured to have been on you and with you on your first live, Justin. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you for asking me to do this. It's been great fun, and thanks to everyone in the chat who's been here and has kind of spurred us on with all your chat about being a king of wands in the sheets and a king of swords in the streets, Mr.
There you
Christopher.
go. That's Chris. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.
See you later.